Wow. Crypto has literally been on an absolute tear, and coins like Ethereum and Dogecoin have been setting all new highs. The question that I keep getting is, hey, is it too late to invest in either one? Well, come on in. Let's talk about it. What's up, everyone? This is the Real Mark Cruz, and I'm here to keep it real with you on the things that matter the most, like your money, your mind, and your time. But of course, I always have to say before we get started, I am not a financial advisor, okay? I'm just some dude on the internet. Everything that you see here is for entertainment and educational purposes only. All right, guys. So right now, the crypto space is literally the most on fire I've ever seen it. Right now, there's so much excitement. There's so much sentiment that's all good in terms of these new things coming out, in terms of people all on the Dogecoin train, on the Ethereum train, people that are still holding on to Bitcoin, all those things. It's literally, I don't think it's ever been as good as it is now, right? So for me, I actually wanted to create this video because I've gotten a lot of people in my own life, and a lot of you guys have left me comments or DMs saying, they really like, you guys really wanted to know my like take in terms of, even though all of these things are at all time highs, is it too late to get into, like, for example, Ethereum and Dogecoin? For this video, those are going to be the ones that I'm specifically going to be speaking on, but there's a ton of them going on there right now. So before we really get into it all, let's actually pull up Ethereum, and let's actually look at the numbers so you guys can sort of understand where I'm coming from, right? So, all right, guys. So now we're looking at Ethereum in the Webull app, and as you guys can see right now, the price is jumping around like crazy. And on the day, it's literally up over $100. It's fluctuating like between 105, 108, 10, whatever. But crypto moves quick like this, specifically Ethereum and Bitcoin. So, just to give you an idea. But I actually wanted to show you guys this, right? If you look back on May 6th of last year, which I believe is this little candle right here, the price at that time was about $206 and 87 cents. Of course, depending on the day, whatever, depending on the time of day, excuse me, but it was around $206 more or less, right? Compare that to what it is right now. It's insane. If we actually look too, let me check this out here too. Beginning of this year. All right. So, for example, on the 2nd of January, right? That's when we first started to see this big push in the beginning of the year. And that day, it actually started around like 760-ish and closed out at around almost $1,000. It was like 980-ish, right? So even back then, it seemed like a steal compared to what it is now. But Ethereum has been on a complete rip, right? So, all right, so looking at Dogecoin now, now that's everyone's, favorite crypto. It's all the rage these days, which I think is actually kind of funny. And if you want to learn more about Dogecoin, you can check the video. I think I'm gonna put it in the corner that I actually made explaining what Dogecoin is. But my whole point being, for most of this year, you can see it was literally less than 10 cents, and I believe even before this, which you won't see here on this specific app. But if you look into it, for a long time, it was literally less than 1 cent. And all of a sudden, got this big push, right? And then, as you see, yesterday, it even went as high as 69.66, which is almost 70 cents, which is amazing. So these coins have been on an absolute rip. So before you guys make a specific choice as to if you're going to invest in them or if you're not or whatever it is, let me actually show you guys some more things that are going on to give you a better picture as to where these two stand for right now, okay? So earlier in the week, Janet Yellen, who's the Treasury Secretary for the United States, she actually mentioned initially, right? She was quoted saying something along the lines that she believed that rates at that time, that they needed to rise to combat inflation, right? The second she said that, a lot of these things started to tank because people really got scared. Inflation is something people are not looking forward to right now, right? And as you can see, immediately she backtracked the comments. So when she first made those comments, like these prices dipped, and then when she backtracked, everybody was like, okay, cool. Are we safe? Is it cool? She didn't really mean it. All right, cool. Let's kind of invest right back into it. So it's scary how, even a simple comment like that could literally affect how these things move, right? Let me see. So I also wanted to show you guys this thing, right? The world is really starting to look at them a lot more seriously, crypto as a whole, right? So much so that if I pull this thing up here, let me see. Right now, as you guys can see here, they're saying that the S&P, they've actually created a few indices to essentially show and track how some of these coins move, right? So, for example, I can show you guys right here. It says, where are we? It says, so the crypto indexes, S&P's first carry, S&P's first, they carry ticker symbols SPBTC, SPETH, and SPCMC. So one is for Bitcoin, one is for Ether, and one is a mega cap, right? Essentially, their names are S&P Bitcoin Index, S&P Ethereum Index, and S&P Crypto Mega Cap Index. Jeez, it's a mouthful. But long story short, there's indices now that are actually tracking these things on the market. So that is a huge flag, if you ask me, because now they're really starting to take this thing seriously, right? So they're also saying, and I believe that was somewhere in this thing, but let me see here. Yeah, so they mentioned that here, and I believe this is on what Business Insider, right? And one of the things that they also said too is that this list is going to expand, and they're going to add more and more coins throughout these things throughout the year, right? Check this out though, and I thought that this was funny too. Okay, yeah, I had like 3 links for the same thing, but check this out. Forbes now, which take it for what it is. But Forbes now, okay, come on, go away. Forbes now is actually saying, well, this guy from Forbes, he's actually changing his whole tune on what Dogecoin is, right? Because in the beginning, everybody thought this was a joke, myself included. I'm not gonna lie. For many years, I was like, really, Dogecoin, whatever the hell is this? What is this thing, right? But I started to take notice recently. I want to say a couple months ago when it finally broke out of the few cent range and it went to 10, 20 cents. I was like, wait a second, this might be something, because regardless of what people think, you always have to kind of understand the psyche behind investments, right? So if the sentiment overall for any particular thing, regardless of what the asset is, if people are really starting to gravitate towards whatever this thing is, that's something that, regardless if it's a short-term or long-term move, it's something you always want to keep an eye on, right? So anyway, back to this Forbes dude, right? He's stating that, hey, look, it has remarkably strong fundamentals now. So, of course, he's somebody that got converted as well because, he was probably like me and many other people in the beginning. No one really took Dogecoin seriously. So other than that, here's some other things that I think you guys should keep in mind if you're thinking to invest in either Ethereum or Dogecoin. One of the major ones is, I don't know if you guys are aware, but everyone's boy, Elon Musk, the coolest dude on the freaking planet, he actually is hosting SNL this weekend. And if you guys have followed Doge, from essentially, I'd like want to say for the past year or so, maybe even more, correct me if I'm wrong, but Elon Musk has been one of its biggest supporters. People think initially he was joking around and people, saying now he's getting a little more serious. Regardless, no one knows but the man himself. But my point being is every time he tweets or mentions Dogecoin, you can see, check the charts, check the timings, check it all out. It correlates to the price moving in the upside, So the fact that he's going to be hosting SNL, a lot of people are speculating that, if he even has any skits or if he mentions Dogecoin at any of his little skits, that these things that this price is going to actually start to jump and it's going to start to move because now he's going to be speaking to it, for a whole massive group of people that probably aren't aware of what Dogecoin is or whatever it is. So that's something you definitely want to keep in mind, especially if you're going to play it as a short-term play. Anyhow, so one of the other things that I wanted to mention to you guys is, anyway, Robinhood, if you guys were aware, there were some issues earlier in the year with AMC, GME, all that stuff, and how they pulled the ability for people to buy stocks and they can only sell them. There's a whole big hoopla, whatever, right? Anyhow, it also seems like as of late that whenever Doge or certain crypto coins start to rise, mysteriously their app has issues. There's a little bit of drama, blah blah blah. Right? It happened again a couple times this week. So I definitely want to say, if this is what you use to invest in any of these coins, be very, very, very freaking careful because I mean, listen, history is a good indicator of where things will go in the future, right? for me, if they've already pulled this move before for whatever the reason is, if it's a liquidity issue, whatever the issue is, no one really truly knows at the end of the day, right? But just be very careful. They pulled this move before, and if you want to have access to buying or trading or whatever, this might not be the way to do it. But of course, I have to point that out, right? Also, if you guys are aware, there's now so many more like banks, apps, institutions, and all of these things that are starting to embrace crypto more, right? Like I made a video earlier in the week, which you guys can see here, speaking about how PayPal itself, right? PayPal is, they've actually started to open up the ability for people to buy and trade crypto, not only through the PayPal app, but now through the Venmo app too, which is great. So something like that. There's a lot of these banks and institutions and stuff like that. They're actually starting to embrace crypto more and more and more. So of course that's a great sign, right? So those are some good things that I wanted to mention. Now let's bring up some concerns, right? So let me get this thing out of my face so you guys can see me all up close and personal. All right, I'm back. So anyhow, here's some things that I actually want to, I guess, bring up as concerns or whatever it is, right? Right now, Ethereum and Doge, they're hitting all-time highs. And although that's great, looking at it for what it is, historically, when an asset generally hits an all-time high, that's literally substantially more than it's ever been. There are very common scenarios, and it's pretty, and it's a thing that could easily take place with anything, right? But bringing it up as a general thing, there are scenarios like that when an asset hits an all-time high. Whenever there's a large period of growth, usually that's followed up by a period of a violent correction, sell-offs or pullbacks, or people just trying to make their money because they don't think it's going to go any further, right? So if you're playing this as a short-term play, that's something to be very concerned of. You're going to have to be quick, like if you're one of those people, right? So that's something that I definitely wanted to point out, right? At the same time, with people doing, like I said, with people getting ready to sell off if it reaches all-time highs, there's a lot of stuff that we can't control as traders, right? And inevitably, there's going to be paper-handed traders that are just going to say, like, oh, well, look, this is never going to be higher than what it is. Let me take my gains and run now. It's not an inherently bad thing to do, but again, if you're trading, you have to trade with the sentiment of the masses. And if people are going to do that, you don't want to be that guy caught holding the bag if it's a thing that you see as a short-term play. So no one knows, but definitely keep that in mind, right? So this last thing that I want to bring up, right? So I'm not saying it's a good or it's a bad thing. No one really knows for sure, but there's a theory going around right now that a lot of these crypto coins, they're starting to see a rise because there might be a huge market move coming soon. Meaning, if you guys have been following the whole AMC or the GME thing or the Wall Street Bets thing, whatever it is, right? There's some theories going around now that a lot of what's going on there, a lot of these hedge funds, a lot of these market makers and all of this stuff, right? There's a lot of new rules coming out that some have already started to pass and some will be passed, by the NSCC or the DTCC. A lot of these CC peoples, that they're increasing requirements, for these accounts not to get margin called, right? There's a theory floating around, a few of them, to be quite frank, that a lot of these coins are seeing immediate rises because a lot of these hedge funds are trying to make their money, doing that, selling them off, and then using that money to cover their behinds, right? No one knows if that's true. But for me, that's something that, when you follow the dots, that could potentially be a thing. So just be very careful. We might see a lot of these things move because a lot of these guys might be, trying to prepare and to cover their asses, essentially. So be mindful of that, So in terms of what I'm doing, right? For me, I see these things literally as long-term plays, right? Of course, you can see them as short-term plays and you can make your money there and in the long term, like with almost any asset, right? But I'm thinking of them as long-term plays. So regardless for me, whatever the price is now, I'm looking more into like 3, 5, 7 years down the line, right? So think back, for example, when Bitcoin, it was, when it first came out and everybody's like, what the hell is this? They didn't understand it, whatever it was, right? Looking back now, if you were one of those people that brought it when it was, cents, whatever it is, and each one now, I don't know, like 50 54, 55K in terms of this recording. I actually don't recall. But, let's just say, right? If you're one of those people that brought in super early and now you still have them, you just made a ton of money. So luckily, those people at that time saw it as a long-term play. And for me, looking at Ethereum, let's start there, right? Ethereum right now, a lot of people are claiming that this is like the second coming or like the second chance for people who missed out on Bitcoin. I'm one of those people that believe that because a lot of people missed out on Bitcoin. Nobody trusted it, and for so long, a lot of people didn't understand what it was or how the governments of the world were going to regulate it. So Ethereum now seems to be like it's going to be the long-term second place coin, and eventually may even be the first, right? So I got in terms of Ethereum, I got in pretty early on. Sold out like a stupid guy, and I got back in. It's a slightly higher price, but I definitely see it now as a long-term play. Some predictions are saying Ethereum could easily hit $5,000 within a couple weeks. I could potentially see that. I mean, I even see it as hitting $10,000 or more by the end of the year. So I definitely see Ethereum as a long-term play. So in terms of Doge, initially, if you would have asked me this a couple months ago, I would have laughed. It's like, come on, really? This thing isn't worth anything. Who the hell would invest in this, right? But, fast forwarding to where we're at now, there's just so many points now actually showing that Dogecoin might be the real deal. So I would be remiss if I would not even attempt to put some money into it, which I already have, of course, but I don't want to be that guy that, I like right now, if I said, oh, it's dumb, it's not going to be a big deal. Then fast forward a few more years and this thing is like 20, 30, 40 grand a coin. I don't want to feel dumb again. I missed out on Bitcoin. I briefly mentioned that in one of my videos prior, and Bitcoin and me have a love-hate relationship. It's broken my heart many times. So yeah, I guess it would have been smart if I kept Bitcoin from the beginning. But anyway, I digress. My point being, I'm willing to put money into Doge, regardless of whatever it is, $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is, right? Because I'm willing to put in money that I'm willing to lose. So in the event that it completely busts, right? Fine, I'll be like, okay, it was money I was prepared to lose, mentally speaking. Great, right? But I would feel dumb if I didn't even attempt it. And now, again, as more and more places, institutions, and more, people are starting to embrace Dogecoin as a serious coin, it's kind of slowly moving out of its meme status, and it's actually, turning more and more into a legitimate coin. I also see this as a long-term play. I potentially see, I wouldn't be surprised if like by the ending of this year, this thing was like at 20, 30, 40 bucks, right? And within 2, 3, 4, 5 years, who the hell knows? But I could totally see this being a coin that hits 4, 5, 600 bucks in a few years. So I'm willing to take that chance. If I'm completely wrong, fine. No one will know. That's the funny thing with foresight. You can only use the facts that you have in front of you right now and do what you want with those. But I'm willing to take that risk. So is it really too late to invest in either Ethereum or Dogecoin? I guess the way to directly answer that is it really just depends on your goals. If you're thinking short term, it may be a little late, but if you're thinking of it as a long-term play, no, you can get in at any point now if you have the conviction and the belief that it's going to continue to rise from this point. So that's what it is, guys. Well, that's what I have for you guys today. What are your thoughts on Ethereum and Dogecoin? Do you think it's too late to get into either one, or do you think that now is as good a time as ever to get into it? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you'd like to get in on the trading train, use my Webull link in the description below to get 2 free stocks after you deposit your first $100. With that being said, keep your heads bright, your wallets tight, and grab your dreams like it's your right, my friends. Peace.